Hello. Hello, hello. You're on mute, Sam, I think.
How's that?
There we are. That's good. Yeah, you're on there. Good, good.
Good, good. How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, good. Not too bad.
Good.
Yeah, busy time, really. Very busy
Yeah.
time. If you can go as close as you can to the mic, unless you've got a one that's headset, I don't know, but
I've got this, and I've also got these headphones. You want me to try those?
yeah, 'cause it's a bit echoey and a bit tinny.
Let's try
Not quite
this.
picking it up.
How's this? Better?
That's better. Yeah, cool.
Okay, good.
Yeah, stop the tin. Okay, I'll do the usual intro then, and then we'll go
Yep.
into the questions then. We'll try and keep them quick fire because there's quite a lot of them. I
How
just
long
want to
do you
make
think
it,
the interview is?
well, we 20 minutes max, something 25 maybe. If we fly through with the question answers, we should be okay. Just sort of go as quick as you can, a couple of sentences, boom, 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 and we'll move on.
You
Ready?
happy with the camera angle?
Yeah, cool. It's your cut off the top of your head, but that's fine. Just yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, good, good. That's better. That's it. Step back and you go 155 then. Right, here we go then. Welcome to the CasinosCom podcast. Today we're diving into one of the most delightfully bizarre and brilliantly innovative corners of the gambling entertainment. Our guest is Sam Jones, the creative force behind 155.io, the company that turned stare pong into a cultural moment, sent ducks flying down massive water flumes, and now he's launching Fish Tank. If you haven't seen it yet, imagine coins being automatically dropped into a tank of water, bouncing off bricks, spinning through bubbles, and eventually settling somewhere you can bet on. Top of a brick, left side, right side, or even in a tequila glass. Yep, a tequila glass. This isn't just another random game, it's a whole new world where physics, engineering, and wagering collide. Sam is here to break it all down, share what's coming next, and give us a peek inside the mind of someone who's reimagining what gambling entertainment can be. Sam Jones, welcome to the CasinosCom podcast.
Good to be back, Alan. Thanks for entertaining me as usual.
So, for anyone new to your work, how do you explain Fish Tank in a sentence?
Fish tank. Well, it's really simple. I saw a shop in France, a sneaker shop. I actually saw this online on Instagram. I'll send you the link. And it was a guy selling sneakers, and he put a very regular size fish tank by his till where everyone bought the trainers. And I think if you buy something in his shop, he lets you drop a coin. The customer can literally drop the coin in, and it can land in a tequila glass. The water's not particularly clean. There's not particularly well lit. But there's hundreds of coins at the bottom, and none of them go in the tequila glass. But once in a while, this coin lands in the tequila glass, and he gives them, a free pair of trainers or something. And this thing just blew up on Instagram. And for me, we're not really inventing anything. We're looking for something that's trending, or something that's clever. And I fell in love with this concept, and I spent a few weeks trying to process how do we take that idea of this genius had, and how do we copy and improve it? How do we make it into an online casino game? So basically, to answer your question, Fish Tank is a real life custom fish tank, which we've designed in such a way that if you zoom in on it, it fits perfectly within your phone screen. And the idea is that we have a mechanism at the top which drops a coin every 10 or 20 seconds. And the coin is really driven by physics. Where it goes, only God knows really which way the coin's going to go. But down the bottom of the tank, there's a couple of things that can happen. It can either go to the left-hand side or the right-hand side, or it can land on some bricks in the middle. And on top of the bricks, there's a treasure chest. Kind of like a gold pirate's treasure chest. And then there's also a tiny little tequila glass. So we basically say to the user, number one, enjoy the ride of this coin. It's going to take about 6 seconds, and it's really deeply relaxing to watch it. Number two, you can have a safe bet. You can bet on left or right. It's like black or red or player or banker. But if you really want to swing the bat, you can have a bet on it landing in the treasure chest or even the tequila glass or on the bricks. So that's version one. And yeah, we think it's going to be a popular game.
So that was the moment the coin dropped in the shop. You've answered my next question there by going through all the little scenarios of how it works. So that's good. We're moving on. Let's just look at what were the biggest design challenges in creating a physical randomness machine that still feels fair and transparent?
Well, I mean, the first thing I did was I just walked into an aquarium shop and I bought a fish tank, a regular size one. And I started, I really believe to get these things moving, you've got to do something, you got to act. So I went and bought a regular fish tank and I just sat there, with a few dozen coins and I was just dropping them in and I was just kind of watching how they'd move. And I soon realized, this is not much of a game to watch on the phone, all day long as a gambling game. It's not good. It needs to be deep. So the first thing we're thinking about is, how deep can we make this? And then you got to think about how do we light it? How do you make sure people can see the coin? And in some of these fish tanks you can buy, they have these huge bubbles coming up, which look amazing on the camera. But the problem is when there's loads of bubbles, you can't see the coins so easily. The last thing we want is players who are squinting, trying to see the coin. So the first thing is like the height, then the width, then the lighting, and then, we're tinkering around with different things. And then, of course, I don't really want to employ someone to stand there all day dropping them because people think, they're in on the game or something like that. So then we've got to think about how do we drop the coins in? So we looked at conveyor belts, things that you'd get on a machine factory, a factory floor. And I just never really liked the look of them. So we ended up custom designing something to hold a big stack of coins. And we just program it in such a way that it releases a coin whenever we choose or wherever the time is set to. So as soon as we figured out that, we had the tank, we had the mechanism to drop them, and then it was really a case of, what do people want to bet on? I didn't want just one betting option. I really wanted to give people I'm very inspired by what Aviator did. They give the user the chance to choose what's their risk appetite, and that's really what we've tried to do here. At least in version one, I'm sure it will change, but in version one, you can choose a safe bet or a much more exotic bet.
I did take a quick sneak peek and it was mesmerizing. I had to sort of, go back to work and just stop looking at it because it was just sort of hypnotic. Um, Online casinos are being transformed by these new game types. Could we ever see this stuff, the fish tank brought to life on a real casino floor, the real thing?
100%. Yeah, we're speaking to real life casinos right now about putting in some of our physical games into their physical casinos. I was in Vegas recently for the big gaming expo a couple months ago, and I walked around all the big casinos, and I was really underwhelmed. They all have the same machines. They all have the bouncing dice and various slot machines now which are very silent. And I think compared to my childhood when I used to go to Blackpool and you had all these crazy games, I think casinos now are really dull places. They all have the same game. There's nothing new, and I understand it because why take a risk on a new concept when you have a proven formula to get returns on a game that everyone plays? But for me, it's really boring. People then they end up kind of trying to compete on the F&B and Adele's in one casino,
Mm.
someone else is somewhere else. But I think there's a real lack of innovation in the games. I see why there is that, but we think once we've proven these games in a digital format or at least in an online format, I think you will see people say we want that in our casino.
Next one is Whack a Rat. They come out, they
Whack,
pop
yeah,
down
I think
down
it
the
was
tube,
mole,
and
wasn't it?
yeah, 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 yeah,
Whack-a-mole.
yeah, yeah. That's the
Yeah,
next one, I
but you could
reckon.
cheat on that if you wanted to. You could put your hands on it. I remember that one.
Yeah, yeah. So there is a lot of innovation in gambling entertainment. You're essentially building real-world RNGs. How do you see physical randomness competing with digital RNGs in online casinos?
Well, I mean, when we first started out on this sort of mad journey, we started with, as you know, with marble racing. Then we sort of transitioned to like a plinko with marble balls, and then we did the same with duck racing around a river. And our games were like we tried to make them as chaotic as possible. And in some cases we showed the start position. In some cases we didn't. Um, and then we did stair pong and so on. And I think that the more and more we go, we're looking to actually two things. How do we automate games? How do we allow machines to do more? And secondly, how do we get some sort of RNG or certification for our games? So the real tragedy with this is the closer you move towards RNG and certification, the worse the game gets from a creativity perspective, because you're using other people's technology at this point. And when other people are employees of companies, they don't always innovate in the same way that if it was their own company. So while we stretch to reach people that can help us with electronics and RNG and certification, we have to compromise something, and that really pisses me off. So we have to find companies that are kind of right on the cutting edge, and it's a trade-off. You know, how random do we make this game in a certified fashion whilst keeping it unique? You know, and so that's really difficult, and of course it depends on who our client is, how demanding is our client that we have certificates and licenses and this, that, and the other. So we're trying to like make this move at the moment, but it's always like, of course, the other thing is just speed. We're at pains as a company to build a sandbox where we can test lots of stuff, fully in the knowledge that some of it's going to fail. People aren't going to like a certain game. They get bored of it, or they don't like the returns. They don't think there's an edge, or whatever it might be. We have to be able to test, learn, improve, copy, cut, you know, whatever it might be. As soon as we spend 6 months working with a company doing electronics and certification and you know, RNG and stuff like that, we're taking a big bet that that game's going to be a success at the cost of other games which may have been better success, which we don't do because we're investing in other areas. So we have to tread carefully. But what we have done is we've built a fully automatic Plinko with an RNG on it, which self-loads itself, has a beautiful RNG at the top. And I don't think we've traded away too much creativity, but it's brought us an element of science, should we say, to the game. This game doesn't have an RNG. This is literally a tank of water, 6 foot tall, and coins are being dropped into it. And the coins are dropped in such a way that they always drop at a slightly different angle. And if someone can crack the code on this game as to where the coin's going to fly, we'll see it very quickly, because you'll see someone winning a lot of money, you know, consistently. But I think there is a real craving for different stuff. And I think even when games have RNG, I don't know if everyone in the world trusts them. You know, I know a lot of people do, but I don't think everyone does.
Are the designs or mechanism patented, and how important is IP protection when these ideas are so visually distinctive and on show?
I think we're in an industry where people copy. You know, when they see success, they copy. I think that's just a given for the industry. You know, ask anyone who's built a good Crash game and have a look at how many copycats there are. So as soon as people see traction, like in many walks of life, they copy. And I don't know how much there is you can do about that. We do have a professional in the US who's taking care of our IP protection. I think it's difficult. I think it can be expensive, but I think if you've got something really special that you can protect, it is worth it. But I don't think you can go and try and get protection on everything you build, because it can just take a lot of time. It can drain a lot of money. So some of the things we're doing, if they're confident we can get it protected, we have a process underway. I think the best way to protect what we're doing really comes down to speed of execution and doing it as best we can in the first 1 or 2 or 3 versions of the game. So great lighting, great electronics, great branding, and then of course you need great distribution. No good having a great game that's only on 2 online casinos. We need to get this into a few thousand casinos. So it's speed of version. Iterate, you know, do version 1, 2, 3, 4, so that the 4th version of Fish Tank is like perfect, and then just blast it everywhere and build a brand out of it ultimately.
Yeah. So from a commercial perspective, where does it scale? Licensing, drops, hosted in live casinos, streaming integrations?
I think if you take a game like Fish Tank, I would say I have strong conviction this will be a popular game, and not because I'm a genius, but just because every time we've released a game, you you see feedback, things like it's difficult to see the ducks, or the marbles move too quick, or the game takes too long. The duck race is 50 seconds, it should be 20 seconds. So over a period of time, you see these trends. Or, on the marble racing, I can only win 7 times my money. I want the moonshot. Where's my 100x opportunity? So I think that the beauty of having this sandbox approach, where we build game after game after game after game, you get so much feedback. And, we really try and listen to it. So then we started to think, okay, if you take stair pong, why was stair pong so popular for us? Number one, the staircase was built to fit in a phone perfectly by design. Number two, the ping pong balls are bright. You have no problem seeing them. Number three, because there's 106 ping pong balls, there's one pink one which pays 100x. There's 50% of them white, which pays 2x. So we can service any level of risk appetite from 2x to 100x. So you start to see that game was popular because it was easy to see, it was mobile, it was fast, it was chaotic, and it delivered a moonshot. So we were like, tick, that worked. Other things like ducks were like super novelty based and great to get people into your lobby. But, is someone who's betting big amounts of money, are they going to watch a duck race for a minute long, all night long? Maybe. But I don't think I think most people who bet big, they want a short, fair, sharp bet.
Yeah.
Where they think they have an edge, or they think they understand the game, but they don't want to sit there watching the ducks go around all day. Because if their duck's losing on the first straight, it's gonna get annoyed. So I think with this game, Fish Tank, it's got a really good shot because it fits in the mobile. It's got the moonshot odds, and it's something totally different, and it's almost mesmerizing. So I would say what we have to do with this is build a brand, and then we have to spray this as widely as possible, and really jump into bed with great partners who can help us reach. I think if I met a guy in Korea tomorrow, I think after one look at the game, he'd get it. And I've lived in these parts of North Asia. If you showed it to someone in Africa, through Betico, one of our partners, I think if you showed this game, someone's going to go, I get it.
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier that your childhood growing up and so on, and I love this stuff because that's sort of familiar to me. It's comfortable. Do you see any differences in how the Gen Z, millennials, and other players engage with your games then?
I think like what I just said, I think there is this, if you look at the Plinko games or these mind games, people want like a short burst of suspense. I think I may have liked, the game I used to like in the fairground was, there used to be one where there was 10 people lined up on a stool, and you'd take some balls, you'd roll them up this little incline, and if they went in depending on which hole they fell in, your plastic horse would move. And so you were racing against 10 people, but there was an element of skill in it. And this game would take 5 minutes, and you had to wait 10 minutes for the next game to start. So it's 15 minutes of your time to win a stuffed toy. I mean, rubbish, really. But there's no way the kids that are playing now are going to do that, for a stuffed toy. 15 minutes, got to be joking. What they want is something which is slightly chaotic, where there's a chance if the ball slips to this side, you could win 100x. So a very short blast of excitement. But if they don't win, which invariably you don't win in these type of games, but if you don't win, your next go is immediately. So I think that's the biggest thing I notice is, and of course, way more than 60, 70, 80% of people are playing on mobile. So the whole user interface design and the way the camera's shot and all the rest of it has to be suited to someone who's watching on mobile. So this is how we're thinking about things. This level of speed, this level of moonshot, chance, and fit within a mobile. And if you're not doing it within those parameters, I just don't think it can be a mass market hit.
Do you think then that physical skill wagering will spread internationally? Do you think some geos will be slower due to regulations or cultural differences?
Well, I don't think this game's skill. So I think this is a bordering an online casino game and an entertaining game. I think this is the sort of game that I could sit there watching Liverpool play on TV and have this running on auto bet and just kind of keep an eye on it. And I'm going to go for the 100 to 1 shot. And my hope is in the next 100 coins that drop, one of them's going to come in, and I'm going to win before the 100 run out. So I think I think this will be popular with a certain type of player in any part of the world because it's idiot proof. It doesn't need any rules, you know. It just needs somebody to try it, and they'll decide if they like it or not. Will it be successful in every market? I'll tell you in a few weeks because I'll see the data. It literally just launched.
So what's the strangest idea you've sketched that might become a reality one day? Have you got something dark lurking there in the background that you're going to launch?
Um, yeah, I mean, I really like the idea of. I was thinking about this recently. The squash courts. They always have a glass, so you can watch. You can watch the game of squash and you can play off the backboard. So I was thinking of building a glass box, maybe not quite as big as a squash court, but glass on every side apart from the floor. And then on the floor, we're going to build tiles, bathroom tiles, black, white, black, white, black, white, black, white, with a few, one red, two green, three yellow. And then we were going to buy a huge bouncy ball, huge, like a size 4 football, something like that. And then a machine which fires it in, like a tennis ball machine or a cricket ball machine. And this thing will just go. And then on the base where the tiles are, we'll put a tiny bit of texture in between each tile. So eventually, when the ball runs out of energy, it's going to sit on a thing. So I think I could build that game to fit within the phone. And so that's actually it's going to look stunning. It will probably look fake, even though it won't be fake. But that's something that, is in the head, and we didn't start it yet. But once it's in the head, we will do it at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a few other things. The question is, how quickly can you reset the game? There's been lots of games that I like the idea of, like cricket ball machines and tennis ball machines, but the question is, how many humans do you need to run it?
Yeah.
And when you're doing it 24 hours a day, that becomes a real consideration.
Yeah. And I mentioned earlier that I sat there and I watched it. I didn't necessarily want to gamble on it or bet on it. Do you see a world, coming along now where spectatorship becomes just as important as the betting itself, almost like these games are just entertainment?
I certainly think Fish Tank could be a free-to-play game, in the Apple Store, where you go in and you buy a bunch of gold coins, and if you turn those into maybe you can win digital prizes, T-shirts, things of this nature. Whether that crosses the line of that, being a gateway into gambling, I guess we'd have to look at that. But I certainly think this is something that you could scale into not an online casino environment. I think as well we can definitely build custom tanks. So if we had a client that wanted a bigger tank, a narrower tank, a tank with certain things in it, or a tank for a celebrity influencer that they've got, that would be really easy for us to do. Now we know how to do it.
I can see a nice submarine sort of, going up and down. Like I used to make them in school. You put a bit of blue tack and then you squeeze it and you go down. But a submarine moving around in that tank somewhere with a coin, the chances of a coin landing on that submarine are, quite high, aren't they? But
they are. But these things happen. Like if you run these things every 10, 20 seconds, day and night, we've seen every event happen. I had the other day we had a duck got hit by the pressure of the water jet, and it spun around in the air and landed on the crocodile's head. I mean, it was unbelievable that this thing even happened. But eventually, these things happen. It's kind of like the black swan moment.
That's proof of reality as well, isn't it? It's proof of the reality of what's going on there.
Yeah. It's like the Plinko. The balls get stuck, and I actually like it that they get stuck because it's proof that this thing's is real. Yeah. So, I think we've got a couple of divers. You may not have seen it, but there's a couple of little guys in there. So we're thinking about, could we put some electronics in the tank? Maybe there's like something going left and right. But like underwater electronics isn't simple.
No.
But the other thing we're thinking about is every so often we release 10 coins. So it's like you're only making one bet, but we're going to release 10. But then you've got to think about, is it that the bet is, do more land on the left or right? But they're like bonus, or maybe you say to someone, this next go is a bonus go. I don't know, but that would be just to get someone jazzed up. I've got a bigger, or maybe we drop 100.
And I guess you go around some of these conferences. I'm not sure if you're going to ICE in Barcelona.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
am.
you can see what goes on the floor. Then there's so much to choose from, and some of it's just sort of mind blowing, and then other stuff is just like, wow, same old, same stand, same stuff. Um, how do what would you think the gambling industry is still getting wrong about what players want, especially Gen Z, and well, even my generation, because there's a lot lot that just doesn't turn me on anymore with gambling.
Unfortunately, I think if you're thinking of entering this market to be a slot game provider or a crash game provider, I think those days are done. Like, I think it's so difficult to come up with a concept, to market it, to get users, to even get the attention of aggregators or brands. I think it's pointless because you're going up against people with such huge war chests that allows them to pay for engineers, marketing, graphic design. Added to that, you've now got game studios who can build entire games using AI, so they don't even need engineers anymore. So you're just going to see the amount of games in these lobbies going from 5,000 to 10,000 games. So it's like total game overload.
Mhm.
And all of these online casinos, they all have the same shit.
Yeah,
So it's the big boys that come in and say, you can only have my crash game if you put me in the top left.
yeah.
And I'm going to give you free bets and I'm going to give you this and I'm going to give you that. So
Mm.
the only chance you're going to make it if you're doing those things, in my opinion, is if you own a time machine. And if you can go back 5, 10 years, and then it's a good business. If you've got a time machine, crack on. But otherwise, I think it's finished, that market, personally. I think the guys that are big will kill anyone and they'll buy anyone that's coming through that's good. So you
Mhm.
have to do something that's wildly different. And that's what we're trying to do. Obviously, as I said, our focus has to be on the creativity and then it has to be on the distribution. But for the most part, these conferences, 90% of the stuff you see is a
Mm.
copy of something else, which I don't
Yeah.
think is that smart, but it's not inspiring.
Well, Sam Jones, many thanks for taking the time to talk to us there about your latest chaotic exploit, and look forward to seeing you in Barcelona at ICE.
Thank you, mate. As always.
Well, that's a wrap on today's conversation with Sam Jones of 155.io. A man who's officially proven that if there's an object in motion, someone somewhere will want to bet on where it lands. We've covered everything from the origin of Fish Tank to the engineering behind physical randomness, the business of building this new category of games, and whether casinos are ready for a future filled with duck flumes, stare drops, and coin splash chaos. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to follow the show, leave a review, and share it with anyone who loves innovation or just loves watching weird stuff fall into other stuff. You can find links to Sam's projects, videos on the fish tank in action, and more in the episode description. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Until then, keep your eyes on the next drop. Bye for now. That's great. Brill. So